But first, I've been saying for weeks that almost no policy difference of any great substance to argue about, more's the pity, between the two major parties. The coming campaign is likely to be a furious dispute over character and competence. And we didn't have to wait long for members of the public to fire their first shots. Some fair income, and some, I suspect, a taste of the setups and games to come. Yesterday, the Prime Minister copped it twice. A young woman sidling up and asking for a selfie, only to do this.
Congratulations on being the worst Prime Minister we've ever had.
And then there was this man, a disability pensioner, who bailed up the PM on an unannounced visit to a pub in Newcastle to complain about his level of financial support.
You ring up your office and you do nothing. They don't even return a call. You treat a disability pensioner that's worked all his life, paid his taxes, now he's getting taxed again.
Now, on the woman, it's fair enough to ask the Prime Minister for a pic, but not to take advantage of his courtesy. On the pensioner, fair enough to tell the Prime Minister what you think, even in blunt terms. But not to let your frustration spill over into abuse of our country's leader.
Hey, you better do something. I don't care. I'm sick of your bull.
Now, you've heard me say this before, even if we don't like the incumbents, we should always have respect for the office, because trashing the office of Prime Minister or trashing the office of the opposition leader diminishes us all. Now, on the other side of the country, in Perth, things didn't go entirely Anthony Albanese's way either. A concerned citizen gatecrashed the Labor leader's media event, asking him what he said was a tough question. Now, after saying, "I'm absolutely up for it," the opposition leader then ducked for cover before saying that he'd be happy to have a chat afterwards.
I've got a tough question.
Hang on.
Are you up for it? I've got a tough question. Are you up for it?
I'm absolutely up for it.
Okay, good.
And sorry, we can't really do that. The protocol, the Media Alliance will be a bit upset if we...
I don't think the media will mind at all. I've said, are you up for it? Are you up for it?
I'm absolutely up for it.
Okay, so my question is,
we're just taking questions from journalists.
Now, I did find that line there that Mr Albanese couldn't take the question because the Media Alliance or the Media Union mightn't like it. Very instructive of who's likely to call the shots if he wins office, the unions. But under yesterday's circumstances, I thought the PM was pretty gracious. Apparently, a staffer then sat down with the disgruntled pensioner to try and address the problem.
More broadly, it was a very welcome reception. Of course, there was one gentleman, Ray, who was there last night, who was very upset about what was a very complicated case. It was a complicated case involving eye care. It was involving immigration issues. It was also involving income definitions under the pension regime. He's had a lot of complications with those cases, and my staff met with him also after I carefully listened to what he had to say. And respectfully listened to what he had to say. He wasn't asked to leave or anything like that. I could understand that he was very upset about some really significant issues that had happened in his life. And so I was keen to understand what he was saying to me, and I believe we have. It is a complicated case, but we'll see how we might be able to assist and progress that. But, you know, as you move around, I like hearing from people.
Really well handled there, PM. Now, I thought the Labor leader should have taken that man's question. The media didn't mind, they said they didn't mind, and the questioner was perfectly polite. I suspect afterwards, both the PM and his rival or their chiefs of staff might have told their advances to lift their game. Now, advances are the people on a party leader's staff who go out and check out the venues. They look to see the events are professionally set up and they minimise what can go wrong. For instance, they'll scout a pub or a business to do the walkthroughs, and they look for where press conferences will be held so they can't be hijacked, or make sure the visuals are good for behind where the leader stands. And important things like the sound quality aren't going to be an issue. Now, it's an art, it's not a science, and even the best advances can miss things, such as the time my former boss was on his way to a press conference and walked past a reject shop. That was a great image for the journos. when Malcolm Turnbull walked into a cupboard. Now, the downside of last night's woman thinking that she was all cunny, got the PM there on her iPhone and sent it out there viral, is that we could lose something really special that we have in Australia, and that's the access of ordinary people to our political leaders. I know what will be happening in both campaign headquarters tonight. They will be reviewing closely where the leaders are going in that first campaign week and beyond, how they're going to interact with people in the community with a view to de-risking every visit. Now, given the general lack of civility in our public discourse, my fear is that we're going to end up like the United States, where our leaders restrict their appearances to events that can only be strictly stage managed and fully scripted, like we're seeing with Joe Biden, those drive-in rallies during the last presidential campaign. That's when he managed to get out of his basement, of course. Now, when that happens, it's even harder to know how the people we elect might react and perform under pressure, and even harder for our leaders to stay in touch with all of us in the real world. Already, I'm disappointed that this election's shaping up to be a policy-free zone, because the government's got nothing new on the table, or what they have is about the same as Labor. And because the opposition, they're not telling us what they're going to do, they'll only tell us after the election when they've won. But it would be even worse if the risk of embarrassment on camera drove both leaders into hiding from the public. If there were more policy, at least they'd have more to say. But regardless of what you think of them, both leaders deserve to be treated with respect. Democracy depends upon robust argument, and it should never descend into personal abuse. If you wouldn't speak to your neighbour like that, you certainly shouldn't start swearing at a Prime Minister or mouthing off at the Labor leader.